is the Valentines block. Now, as you can see, if you're doing it on A4 size printouts, follow my first video showing you how to put these together, so that you'll end up, if you're printing it out, and that one will have words on it like this, so then you're printing it out, so you've got the segments put together like this. And this one is slightly different to the others, in as much as instead of it being one entire block to work on at one time, it's not. It's in 4 segments, okay? And this is the way that this one has to go together to avoid doing things that we can't do really, like Y seams on this type of foundation paperwork. So as usual, take note of your 1/4 inch dotted line, because you will definitely need that. So cut it when you've put it together, or you've printed it out and read whatever's on it. Then you need to cut off the parts that we don't need, okay? As I say, bear in mind you need those 1/4 inch outlying parts. And as you can see with this one now, I can cut down the middle, okay, to make them into more usable sizes. Whoop, I went and cut that wrong. Never mind, pretend I didn't. I have to go and print out another one. Feeling a bit shaky tonight, I don't know why. Right, so what I wanted to express to you is that on this large triangle, they are numbered in exactly the same way, A1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right, so you imagine how we're going to deal with that. Then we've got a block that says, this square one that I've miscut says B1, B2, B3, yep. And then we've got a triangle with C's on it, C1, C2, and a triangle on it, D1, D2. So this is the order in which we're going to make these up, and we're going to make them up as separate individuals, which will then allow us to pin everything together to make up the final square. So this one I need to talk you through as we go. And this one is only done in black, red, light green, yellow, and then the other is black. Alright, so start with this triangle. We only really need red and black. Whoops. Just want to tell you a moment what I have done is with my squares, I chopped a bit out of that one, so pillar box red, like a sun colour yellow, and then this is a lime, whoops, I did press this, it's been screwed up on my desk now, lime green. And what I did was, out of my metre of material, I took my big 12.5 inch ruler and just cut 12.5 inch squares and went and best pressed them so that I'm going to get the best sharp cuts from it. Okay, so starting with the first piece that we want to work on, which is going to be the black A1. Now I'm lucky because I got lots of, I've been doing this sort of thing for quite a few years, so I've got lots of different types of rulers. This one is Cute Cuts from Laurie Holt. I've done quite a few of the Farm Girl stuff, so I bought this for Laurie Holt. And this is a 3.5 inch ruler by 6.5 inch, which is really good for me here, so I can put the 1/2 inch on the edge. And if I cut, I quickly put this over here, and naturally we need to go from the edge, the dotted line. Yeah, see, 3.5 inches by 3.5 inches is more than enough. All right, so 3 inches is more than enough. So if I cut, because I've got to make 8 of these, so if I cut 2 blocks, roughly cut, well, one block this size, yeah. I'm awful at cutting back the front. Ah, I did it, right, okay. And then I can just say, well, I can just cut that in half actually. Remembering that we have to cover 1/4 of an inch all the way around the square, yeah? And then I will need to go from that with some red. So with the red, what size are these? Let's have a quick look. Yeah, oh, 3 inches is going to be much more than enough. So again, 3 inches by 3 inches. 3 inches by 3 inches. And may, if I cut this one slightly longer, so I'll put my 3 inch on there. So if I cut this one slightly longer, yeah, yeah. As I say, I'm awful. I should have my rotary board out, really, shouldn't I? Oh, I've got the collywobbles tonight. And then instead of, and I'll make this, because we've got a triangle to cut, yeah, I'm going to make it a bit bigger, and hopefully I can get 2 of the triangles out of there. Right, okay, so I'm ready to start with my A1, A2 and A3. Now I've got my bit, I don't know why I could be a little bit of card, but I've got another bit of card now. So as I told you before, put your card against the lines that you're going to be using and fold so that you can see the outcome on the back, because as you know, our best work is going to be on the back. Alright, so I'm just quickly folding now around that square against my card, which gives me the firmness to get a nice crease. I'm going to press a nice crease. So now you can see, I hope you can, oh no, if I crunch it a bit and show you a bit on there, you can see I've got the outline there, that shows you of how big my pieces need to be on the back, which I can't really see. So now taking a piece of black, and mine doesn't really matter which way round it goes, and the first piece I always just hold down with a little squirt of 505, okay, making sure I'm going right to the edges with that, and 1/4 of an inch over the edges. Oh, did you? Okay, and hold that down. Right, so that's stuck down. And then the first process is A2. So that's A1 gone down. I haven't quite done it right. Let me peel that up and turn it round. Let's put it this way. Tell me I haven't made it big enough. Oh, because I'm going right to the edge. Don't need to go right to the edge. Should have folded that, shouldn't I? Then I'd know. Right, okay. So if I fold my dotted lines, it's only got to go as far as that. Right, okay, so my A3 piece can go down there, covering. Now I've lost my squirty. It's all going wrong tonight for me. So that can go down like that. Now you've got to do the A2. So bit of card. Make my between A1 and A2 crease, back to the crease, yeah. Plot my adder ruler on with the lip against the paper, or use an ordinary ruler, but cut that off so I know that now is a 1/4 inch. Yeah, is that where I'm going? That now is a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Alright, so now again, making sure whichever you want the right side down, okay, I can marry up that piece of red to the one beneath. Okay, so that's meeting that as a 1/4 of an inch on that edge. Right sides together on this side, from the dotted line, sew that line down to there, 1 stitch over, and I'll come back to you. Right here. So I've just come back and sewn off this, well, outside that dotted line all the way down, and I hope you can see one stitch past that area there. So that's between A1 and A2, 1.80 on your stitch length. Alright, and now take my pin out of the back and I can finger press that forward, and when you starched fabrics it's easier to finger press too. Alright, so then I can bring back, see what I mean about getting two out of there? Bring back that fold that we've made, because that's as far as we want that red to go. I'm just going to turn it round for ease for me. So making sure that's all nicely come forward, and obviously it's gone off the edges. I can plop that on there, oops, and cut my excess. So I don't know whether that's going to work on the next bit. If not, we'll have to see. So now from the front we've got that corner, that piece, and now we want to do this piece. Now is it going to fit? Yeah, do you know what? It is. It is going to fit. So that's nice and lucky, isn't it? So it's that, let me see, it's that edge that I need to match up. Oh, I don't know if I cut that edge yet. Let's see, have I cut that edge? No. Right, so we need to trim that back, the black, because now we're working from A1 to A3. Okay, and now looking at where my triangle is going to form, which is here, we need to right sides together, pin that triangle to there. Where's my pin? Okay, and just from the front, so this line from outside the perforations all the way down to, again, one stitch over in the middle here. Alright, I can do that on the machine. So I have just, I had to change the rectangle, the triangle into a rectangle. It's a lot easier to work with rectangles, to be honest with you, so you know where you are. I was winging a prayer that I could get out that other little bit. However, saying that, keep your little bits, because there are little bits on the design later on, especially this red, which you can use it for. Sewed down there, folded that back again, put my add a quarter on, cut off the excess. Now I'm able to fold that back over and finger press it. Yep. And then from the right side, keeping my fabric nice and firm, take my card, fold against that line between A2, A3 and A4, which again is going to be red. Fold that back, pop on my add a quarter, and I'll start one end, keeping that bit, and this I've already done. So there we are now with that. So the next thing that we need to sew, now you can see this is coming together, the next thing that we need to sew is this big triangle here for the A4. And I'm just looking at it now and saying, well, I need 1/4 of an inch over there. No, even that's not wide enough. So this is a 3.5 inch ruler. So I'd say to you, go to 4 inches on that. 4 inches wide. Have I got a 4 inch wide ruler? Just one moment. Yeah. I got a 4.5 inch wide ruler, but I only need, as we said, 1/4 inch over that way. We only need it to be it's over 3.5, so we only need it to be 4 at the tops 4. Alright, so take my piece, and how long did we want it to be? Because that's the other thing, is it's got to go from right this edge, right, past the perforations here. So it's got to be, I'm doing it the wrong way around, don't I? Start naught there. It's got to be 5, 6, 7, 7.5 inches. Yeah. No. 7. Where am I? Yeah, 7, and it's got to be at least 7.25. So we may as well say 7.5, haven't we? Alright. This is for those of you who don't like doing things by eye and want to know what they're cutting. Alright, so I'm going to plonk that on there, and as it goes, you know, that bit is going to be, I don't want it that big, that wide. I know I only want it 4 inches. So if I plonk that on there like that, I'm just going to cut that piece. Alright, it's more than enough. So then, right sides together, I need to place that equally across and line up, marry up with a 1/4 inch underneath. And this one I think I'm going to want 2 pins in to hold it. My bent pins. Marry it up to that 1/4 inch, right sides down. I'm all fingers and thumbs tonight. It's like I said this, just like I got the collie bobbles. Right, okay, so put a pin in there. Yep. And then from the right side, we're going to be sewing outside the perforated line, all the way across that line between A2, A3 and A4, right the way down there and past this perforated line here as well, past the perforated line at the bottom. Right, so I've just sewed that line from there to there, from between A2, A3 and A4. So I put my piece of card on, folding it back, and I know we've cut this before, but now we've got a double layer of material, so we need to put our add a 1/4 on, and that all looks good so far until we get down to here, and you can see that now I didn't quite have that straight, did I? So I'm just double checking that that is just 1/4 inch. Alright, so we can unpin the back, fold that piece forward, finger press it nicely, finger press, okay, finger press that forward. Alright, and now going back to the front, what we're going to be doing are these last 2 black pieces, okay. And so I'm just going to make my lines that I can see where I'm going with that. And if you find, as I have, starting to do this one, that my fabric is now a little bit caught up, you can rip it out of the paper, alright? So I've just done my triangle for there, and my straight line now down, because this is one of the ones I'm going to do. So again, make my fold, and as I say, if it's got caught, the stitches caught, just put it from the paper, alright, so that you can get your paper to come back. now we need to sort of like take a gist of how big we need these black pieces to be to cover the two black triangles on the other side. Yeah, so whichever way I measure it, because we've got to start off from that red edge, I'm saying to be on the safe side, I'm going to cut them at 6 inches. Well, I'm going to cut at 6.5 inches. So I've got my 6.5 inch ruler down, and I'm just going to cut 6.5 inch squares. Now, bearing in mind, this looks like we're using an awful lot of material, but really we're not, because I'm going to keep the cut-offs, the scraps, and they are going to be reused in other triangles. For example, what we've just cut off of that really large red triangle, it will be big enough to do the two smaller triangles above it on the next one. So although it looks like we're using an awful lot of material, we're really not. Now I am just, I think I've cut my 1/4 inch, I've cut my 1/4 inch seam there. So I'm plopping down the back black, right sides together, and I'm going to put a couple of pins in to hold it. And we need to do from A4 to A5. So right sides together, and I'm just going to pin that down. And then sew that line. And then obviously we're going to do exactly the same with the other line. And do exactly the same for the other side to complete that triangle. Okay, so I brought this back. First off, let me just show you this. First off, I did the A5, which was this side, yeah? So there's my stitch going all the way down, and you can see it's crossed over there. And I'll put the pins out. Which one did I do first? Oh, this one, A5, gets confusing. I did A5, and I haven't actually cut that yet. So I did A5, folded it back, put a pin in it. Then I did A6, and now here I go, and I'm ready to take my pins out. Where's the one go? Oh, shot off there now. Right. And I don't like the fact that I got a white thread showing there. Right, so I've just pulled that back, and I am going to put a pin in there to hold that. Now I'm ready. So this is from the good side. So now I'm ready from the back side to cut it. Now, because these are now all outside pieces, yeah, and we know that we're going to have to when we put the other sections together, we're going to join this as a half, which is what I'm going to show you. But for now, because these are all outside pieces, instead of having to use our 1/4 inch, we can use our outside dotted line, which is going to give us a 1/4 inch seam allowance, and go all the way up and through. Okay, so now we got, look, we've got some lovely nice big black bits to use again. All right, and from this side, oh, we haven't yet, we will do, we could do it now. Yeah, let's do it now so you can see. Eventually, with all of it, we will be using this outside dotted line to square up the all of our big squares. So we could do it now. So I'm cutting along the outside dotted line, getting rid of pieces that I don't need. Alright. So this is the step where you would square off, if you were doing the whole square at once, before you remove the papers. But I'm doing it because I want this as a pattern. So now you see that's nice and neat, isn't it, from this side? But it's also nice and neat from that side. yeah. So that's that triangle done, and I'm going to keep those pins in place for now, and I'm going to put that out the way. I'm going to do the other elements, which are these ones, yeah. Was it another 3? Yeah, I think it was another 3. I'm going to do the outside elements. This has got green in the middle, these are yellows. I'm going to do them and show you, but I'm going to do them like speed it up. So, you know, you don't have to listen to me, and you can just see, well, if you want to know, oh, hang on, how does she do that? You can just watch it, but I'm going to do them speeded up on the camera. And I'll put timestamp in the information box underneath, so that if you just want to go to, say for example, well, how did she do B1, B2, B3, I'll just put B1 at such a time, yeah, so that you can go and look at it. So then at the end, when I've got all these done, I'll show you how we actually put them together. Me arties. So I've had issues with lights all night. That's the same material as that, but this one, look, if I put it over there it looks white, if I bring it over here it looks yellow. So, but anyway, I've been struggling all night. Now, so we've done the top half, few years, put that back up there. So I've got all the papers on, but we've cut the outside lines now, haven't we? Yep, we've cut all the outside lines. So now we need to put this together. Right, I had it just now. Oh yeah, that way. Now you may notice that on block B1, right, you got a sin bit and a thick bit, yeah? Not being funny, but that end was thicker than this end. And that's not wrong, that's right. So what we need to do now is say, well, that's B1, and that's C1, C2. I didn't actually video these because, I'm not being funny, there's one seam straight up the middle. Well, you know how to fold it back, do your quarter and fold it forward. After you fold it forward, you just cut round all the perforated lines to give yourself a 1/4 inch. Or as I did, as you saw me do, I just said, well, that's a 1/4 inch on my ruler. So I put my ruler 1/4 inch on the inside line and went, right? So I know I've got 1/4 inch lip here. Okay, I'm going to keep my papers on now, remembering that's got to go that way. So I've got to make my bottom quarter now. So easy. Okay, right. So how do we do it? Well, naturally, we want, this is where I get challenged. It's going to go like this, yeah? So in some ways you could say, well, forget the paper, but I want the paper line to work with. So I might put more than one pin in here. Let's pinch a pin a minute and say, well, you know, I know I've cut the paper correctly. I know I've cut the material correctly. So I am just holding down. It's going to be this seam that I want to do. So I'm just holding down the fabric to the paper so it doesn't get too warped. Alright? There's no seams to match. We need to put these two together to make up the, you know, start to make the bottom triangle. So how do we do that? Well, right sides together, obviously, and we need the papers to match up. So if I might put a pin in there and all, just so that I know that I am, you know, my fabric is held right to the edge of where I cut. Yeah. So where was I again? I've got to think now. I do get challenged by. Hang on, that's that way. So that's that way. Yeah. So this has to fit on there, right? Well, I know my bottom lines are correct. So I'm just putting that on there, and then I am going to put a pin. Which way should I do it? So machine, I'm going to come down this side. So, oh, I need more pins, if you don't mind. Where can I pinch another pin from? Here, right. So having lined it all up, nice and tightly. So my outside line is lined up. Yeah? Remember, you have got a 1/4 inch leeway, but I want it to be, well, I want it to be as perfect as it can be. So now I'm putting my pin in, yeah? And I'm going to double check it when I get to the machine. You see, because if I look from this side, it's not right. You see? You see? So, I know that's right, and that should be right. Get rid of all these specks. And what I actually might do in this instance, because now we're using paper as well, is I might use some magic clips. So if I hold a magic clip on there, and I hold a magic clip halfway up, yeah, if I turn it over, is it right the other side? Not. Yes, it is. Oh, this is a bit where I rip off a bit of paper because I miscut it in the first place. So that is correct. So now I know my seams are marrying up. Well, my 1/4 inches are marrying up because there is no matching seams. So I'm going to put this under the sewing machine now, and I'm going to sew from the edge, right off the edge of the paper, following that black line all the way down and off the edge of the paper here. Okay? I mean, this is the whole beauty of this. If you can sew down a black line, keep that in the centre of your foot, you can make an absolutely perfect square. Absolutely perfect. I hope you noticed, actually, I don't know whether you might not, but when I made the B1 square, the residue of the 6.5 inches that we made for the top square, the residue of these 6.5 inches that we made for the top square, I used to make this square. So all I had to do was cut a strip to make the inside stalk, but I got a bit big enough to make another one, you see. So, you know, you might think, oh, that's a lot of material, but no, it's not, because we do reuse. I'm also going to put, to keep it nice and square, I'm also going to put a pin halfway down there, just to make sure I'm keeping my papers square, right? So I'm going to go and sew, following that black line down this right hand side on the sewing machine. Sewn that, take off my ootits, fold it back. Okay, fold it back. Oh, remember it's that way, right? So now I can definitely take that pin out. And I know you think to yourself, oh well, I've got all this paper now, what do I do? Well, not being funny, don't need it now. So this is, if you've done a good perforation of paper, in the seam part, for now, we can actually fold it forward, yeah, and get hold of it and go oop, 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 and take it off and turn it over, fold it off. And this is the whole point of us folding all the time, is that every time we fold, we're weakening the paper anyway. I mean, I'm doing it the same as you would do on copier paper, but I do suggest there are other medias out there. You can get Carol Dote's foundation paper piecing, which is more like rough paper. I'll show you a picture of it later on. Or you can use vellum, which is more clear, see-through, which helps you a lot because it's printed on one side, but you can see right through it. So now I've got rid of some of that paper, you can see that that seam can sit down nice and smoothly. Okay, so that's so far that bit done. So now we got to tangle with the rest of it. So the other side is going to go, how's it going to go? How's it going to go? It's going to go like that. So again, knowing that the bottom is correct, if you cut your paper correctly, I'm putting the two bits of, excuse me a moment, I'm putting the two bits of bottom together, and I'll put a couple of clips in there, so that makes a straight line at the bottom of my work. Alright, and then I can say, well, let's just make sure, yep, that marries up and moves along, and I can put one or two clips in here. We're going to sew down the right hand side. So if I turn it over, I can knock it back a little bit. Knock it back a little bit. Yep. Yep. And I know my bottom is straight. So now I'm going to sew down that right hand seam and get rid of the paper that's between the two there. Alright. So I've just sewn down the right hand side here. And I'll take out my, what I call stay clips. Yeah. So you can see now I can bring that back. But naturally we've got an awful lot of paper in here. That I can carefully, while I'm doing this, can I just say to you, if you make a terrible mistake and you have to go and unpick a seam for some reason, yeah, but you don't want to ruin your pattern, you can use a bit of Scotch tape on the right side of your pattern to hold the pattern together and re-sew over the hole that you may have, the little hole or the rip that you may have made. Right, so now I've taken the paper out of that seam, I can move that seam forward and that sits very nicely, yeah? Okay, so now what do we want to do? Well, we're just moving on in the same vein. So we're going to take our top piece and again marrying up the edges. And what I like to do is to make sure, because we've got room to work with in the middle, so there's no seams to match really. Well, only that cross. So, you know, I like to marry up the V at the bottom. And again, I'm just using clips because we got a few layers of paper now. And then I will just it all together. Yeah, I mean, if it's not quite working, you know, give it a little bit of love. If you look at it from both sides, yeah, maybe, and you can see, this is the lovely part of it too, is that you can see with the paper, on this one it does actually have to match. You can bring it up, clip it, so it's got a match, and then loosen the bit that won't allow it to. So now it's matching both sides. Yep, we're just going to sew from there right the way down. That's all we're going to do, is sew from there right the way down the whole thing. Okay, so I've just sewn straight down the line. So I can take away all my grips and counterparts now, put them back in my lovely bowl, and again we can move this forward, crease it. Obviously there are bits that we need to pull up from the stitching, and then get rid of them. So starting one end, we should be able to pull away. Now copy paper is a bit tough, so as I'm doing this, I just want to say to you, I've been looking on the internet tonight for some alternatives, because there's lots you can buy in A4 size, but if, like me, you know, you want to take advantage of an A3 printer for larger projects like this, I mean, you can do it with the A4, obviously you can see how, but I've just been having a little look, and I've come across something on the internet which I've ordered. Should come tomorrow sometime, probably not till late because I've ordered it so late, but which is an A3 63, I think it is, GSM. So that's what we use in Europe to tell you how thick the paper is going to be. This is 100 GSM, this copier paper, so it's not going to be as thick as this, yeah. And it being tracing paper, it's see-through, which could make your life a bit easier. So it's not too dear. I think it's just over £7 for, was it 50 sheets? Now obviously you would you know, I'll keep it just for this purpose, okay, but I've ordered this, so obviously I'll give you a review of it and tell you all about it if it's any good tomorrow. If it's not any good, well, I won't bother you. Alright, so I've taken out, and now I can open out, and I can take out these pins from my project. So there's the project. If I put it around the right way looking at you, yeah, I need to zoom out a bit, I think. There's the project looking the right way at you, yeah, all done. So as you can see by this, now I haven't taken off any more paper, but you've got such precise, I'm just looking at that thinking, have I done it the right way up? Thick at the top and where at the bottom. Maybe it should be the other way. I'm not sure. Nobody's going to notice on my quilt anyway. But can you see what very, very precise, you know, things you've got? And also, let's look at the measurements. Let's measure it right from that edge. This all in shot, right? Yep. That's exactly 9.5 inches. And if I measure it the other way, yep, that's exactly 9.5 inches. A perfect square with perfect, what's it? Yeah. So, now, all we need to do, after we've done that, I've already cut round the edges. There's, you know, a couple of places where dog ears can come off, yeah? That dog ear can come off for a start. I've got one the other end? Yeah. I got one that can come off that end, yeah. But other than that then, what we're left to do is really, that's still stuck. Oh no. Well, I can just, see this top square, put off that, and working through it, tear away that, and working through it, I've got to pull that out from that stitching, and then working through it, tear away, and then we're left with a nice soft, well, we will be left with a nice soft perfect square. So I don't do any more, but that's what you do, you get rid of the papers at the end, right? I'm going to come back to you with this idea of using tracing paper. Never thought about it. Thought about vellum, but I never thought about graphical studio tracing paper. So I'm going to come back to, and you know, if you get any odd, really odd bits, well, get a pin on them, you know, you can get them out. But they should all come out. It's nice to sit down, when you've done a load of squares, it's nice to sit down at the telly and just kind of satisfy and pulling all the papers off. But then you're left with your perfectly made block.
Yes, this is a long video, and I know there are many of you out there that have done foundation paper piecing before and find this very, very easy. But I've made this video on the prefix of there are people out there who've never tried it, so I have absolutely walked you through every step of the way, every second of the way practically. I won't be doing that in the future. I wanted to show you this one because it's made up of numerous components to make up this square. It's the only way you can do it. Imagine if you were doing this as a square using roller cutted, roller cuts, then you would have, I don't know how many, Y shapes, and it'd never be precise. So that's one way of looking at paper piecing, but it's opening another branch to other people that have never done it before. This is a fantastic quilt. It's going to be great. Once I finish showing you this video, I am going to be putting it up and I'm going to be slotting this into the preview, as I've already showed you the outside of the quilt, and you're going to be like, now I see where these go. Alright, so this is the first, after the tester block, this is the first one that I'm asking you to make, and the next ones are not going to be, unless there's anything particularly funny about it, the next ones are going to be basically, here's your printout, you know what you're doing by now. If you've made 8 of these, you know what you're doing by now, and it will be quick time, and obviously open to questions, open to comments, if there's anything that you're failing with. Okay, or not failing, that's the wrong word, anything that you're struggling with.